Hello, my name is Jacob Kerr, and this is Stephan Archer, and today we're going to talk about the book he authored, The Mind and the Stock Market. Stephan, thank you for interviewing us today. How are you doing?
I'm doing just fine. What else can I help you with?
We definitely want to get to... I read this book, I thought it was a pretty good book. I definitely want to get to know you a little bit more personally. Just a few questions, and then we'll ask you a few questions about your book.
Fine.
So, tell us about yourself a little bit.
Well, being raised in Minnesota, which was very cold, I decided to leave the cold and come out to the Pacific Northwest, where I've taught at the University of Washington, I'm at university in Salem, Oregon, where I started a new MBA program. But before that, I had experience of several years in the Navy and also in an investment business, working for an investment firm in Minneapolis. And later on, I worked also for an investment firm in Seattle, Washington for a year. So I've had some definite investment experience, but also during that period, and even during my academic period, I learned that a lot of people had many questions about saving and what to do with their savings, even though they're usually involved with the savings account at a bank, which wasn't particularly happy. It didn't make them happy as an alternative. So I decided that the message that the book ought to be was present to a beginning investor some of the many alternatives for investing. And in addition to that, of course, many of the dangers of mental dangers particularly that cause one to be too optimistic, too pessimistic, or emotional about a loss, and so on. Those things do not belong in a good investment program.
So you definitely have a lot of experience with just being in the field of investing. Impressive resume. Assuming that's why you wrote this book, you want to give other people that knowledge and wisdom.
That's right. Definitely, I thought there was a need for this kind of a book, which would explain that the investment involves many different alternatives, and including the real estate, including the savings bank and the stock market, and many other things should be looked at and examined, also with a giving an attention to the mental aspects of planning an investment program. And
if there's one chapter or section that you would recommend that anybody read or prioritize, what chapter or section would that be?
Well, I think it's a good idea to read chapter 1 and the very last chapter in the book in order to give the person an idea as to the scope of the content of the book and what they should be thinking about in terms of investment alternatives and how to plan a very appropriate or suitable investment program for the long term.
Fair enough. And is there a specific demographic or age group that you would want to read this book, or is it just for anybody or anybody specifically? Or
well, it could be for any, but I think I'm mostly in my view that I wrote the book with the intent to appeal or provide people who are just beginning to think about it and investing outside of the savings account of the bank. That can be people just out of high school, or it can be people who are in mid-career who need to think more carefully about investment alternatives.
Fair. And for anybody who was in high school or just out of high school or in their 20s, besides setting aside a certain amount per month for their savings account, what would you recommend that they look into for investing or money purposes besides just the saving part?
Well, the savings part is sometimes the most difficult part.
Sure.
But it should be a regular program of saving with a purpose and goal in mind and a plan for saving for their lifetime. Planning is so important to an investment. And of course, many people think and hear about the stock market, and so I give quite a bit of attention to the stock market as one investment alternatives. actually working for an investment firm, you should also realize, for example, that investment firms are really just merchandising firms. They aren't selling coats and dishes and food like grocery stores and other stores. They're selling investments. And consequently, they aren't a gift from God with secrets as how to make $1 million. There are people trying to sell their particular wares and make an income or a career out of it. So I think that people out of high school, if they feel mentally ready, should start their savings program and begin to learn about investment alternatives and not just have their direction right to the savings bank or to a mutual fund or to real estate.
Sure. So let's say somebody was out of high school, you'd recommend if they had a lot in their savings account to perhaps just explore a little bit of different investments, or like just diversify, or would you recommend this like one?
Yes, we spend a fair amount of time in the book talking about diversification.
Diversity, yeah.
And it's important, if you want to reduce risk, is to diversify among various investment alternatives. And even for each alternative, there are alternative ways of investment that could stand diversification. Diversification essentially reduces risk dramatically, and consequently makes it more palatable to perhaps chase investments with a little higher return than the savings bank can offer.
Fair enough. So besides writing this book, do you have any hobbies you do, or like anything else you do on your spare time, or?
Well, I do a lot of reading just about whodunit and those kinds of books, which is quite a change from my thinking of the equations and so forth in finance and economics. I am interested in wine and football, but also I pursue a pretty serious career in keeping my physically fit. I think that's as important as financially fit. So I attend the gym regularly 3 days a week and perform various kinds of exercises to tone the muscles and keep myself physically fit.
And definitely investing in your health is just as important, if not more important than,
That's right. Important is what you do and plan for your financial future, and what you should plan and do for your physical future.
Yeah.
I just happen to have an article written about me.
What's this?
In a local newspaper.
Oh.
It says, Jim Dandy at age 90. This was 2 days ago. It came out and showed a number of pictures and wrote a complimentary article about my exercises, which in most cases includes such things as doing chin-ups and pull-ups, which most people are usually a little surprised that they're able to do one. So anyway.
But that's the front page of the life section of the Columbian.
That's right.
So thousands, if not a few 10,000 people are going to see this.
Yes.
So did they write anything else in the article about you, or just the gym part?
Well, it says that I actually wrote this book called The Mind and the Stock Market as primarily one of my activities after retiring from being a professor at universities.
And a few people I've talked to who've read this book as well, we like the book, but we want to know, are you going to write any more books?
No, I think this is
Okay.
the message that felt I had to say.
Okay.
And so therefore I'm through.
Okay. And what's the best way we can help get this message across? What's the best way me and my acquaintances and family can do, and friends and people watching can do, to spread this message and the value that this book provides? What can we do?
I think it's important, very important, to read this book and to learn about the investment alternatives that you have to choose from in thinking about your future. But it's very critical that you start planning your financial future. Your savings program and what you eventually plan to do with your investments. And I think that if you make a plan, you probably won't stick to it entirely, so you'll have to revise it periodically. But planning is very critical for any financial future, just as it is a physical future.
Definitely agree with that. And on that note, I want to thank you for letting us interview you. And we'll see you guys over the next few weeks and few months. We plan on doing one of these quite often, actually. We're going to start next time with a video on the first chapter and on some current events as well. So thank you for watching and stay tuned.